What's up, YouTube? I am diagnosed ADHD. My name is Eric. My channel is all mental health, mental illness, suicide awareness, sobriety, just making sure that nobody goes through it alone. I am diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. I lost a wife and a father to suicide. I'm a recovering alcohol and cocaine addict. And I like to share a lot of my experiences, coping tools, and just what I've been through to maybe help somebody out there struggling. When it comes to ADHD and anger, there is a connection. Especially when we are not medicated and we're ADHD. The reason I feel this, again, I'm not a counselor by any means. I mean, I can share with you from my experiences, is the problem when it comes to ADHD is us getting control of our thoughts and then being able to vocalize or express them or communicate them. And when we can't, or we get frustrated because we can see it in the other person, we hear it from the other person that they don't understand, it builds up that aggravation. It builds up that almost temper that we do lash out sometimes. It is more common amongst with men than it is with women for that anger to be there. But in both cases, the anger is there because of the frustration of communicating. So finding the best way to communicate when you are ADHD and that temper does hit is sometimes even trying to write it out. But sitting down with the person and working it through as best as you can communication-wise, one-on-one. The worst form of communication, especially when it comes to being ADHD, I believe, is text messaging or emails. Because we are already impulsive. You don't respond to us. All of a sudden, our temper goes up because you don't understand, and this is how it is. And it sends us to that next level. Medication, believe me, does help tremendously with this. That's why I take Adderall. It's the medication that helps me the most with my ADHD. But it's finding the meds that work best for you, and it's trial and error to find out what works best for you. But the whole key on preventing that anger and that aggressiveness is to even let the person that has ADHD that is trying to communicate with you time to communicate. And repeat back what you think you've heard or are trying to understand that they're saying so that there's not that breakdown in communication, because there's nothing worse for us than to say something, think that you understood, that you do something completely different, and we're like, you don't fucking care about us, you're not listening to me, you don't understand, and the anger goes up and the throwing shit goes and the punching the walls. I mean, it becomes a very explosive anger, and it's not on purpose. It's more driven out of frustration, because you have to remember our head is like a billion fireworks going off of thoughts trying to grab onto these. So one of the best ways to actually prevent that anger from hitting is to repeat back what you think you've understood. When you do that, it doesn't actually bother us because you're interacting with us in conversation, so it doesn't seem like we're zoning you out. But to ask us back and to ask us questions, because then it opens and has that clear communication. Because when we can't clearly communicate is, I think, when, at least with me, when that temper really hits into play. And it's the shittiest part of ADHD is there is that hyperactivity, that temper, that spontaneousness, and then that frustration too, because if we don't feel we're understood, you do feel kind of stupid. You feel self-defeating because you're like, I'm trying to tell you how I feel, but you don't get it. Like, why don't you get it? Why can't I explain it to you? I must be stupid. Like, and this is how I talk to myself. Like that's how my thought process goes. But when it's explained back to me, I'm like, no, you missed it. I'm sorry. Here's what I meant. And I'm going to keep trying to explain it until the person goes, oh, okay, I get what you're talking about. And then they were, yeah, that's it. I mean, you can tell when we connect in that conversation where we both understand each other, that clear communication finally hit. And then there is no anger, there is no frustration, there is no lashing out, because the worst thing to be done is trapped in your thoughts and trapped in that and not knowing how to express any of the emotions, the feelings that you're going through, and allowing it to come out in a physical nature or an aggressive nature. So talking is everything to prevent that anger. And also making sure that you take your meds. I mean, if you're ADHD and you notice your frustration, your anger starting to increase, one of my defaults right away is, dude, did I take my meds today? Because the majority of the time I didn't take my meds. And it goes back to, shit, I need to take my meds. That's the biggest and best way to actually help it, where that anger doesn't take place. But anger with ADHD and frustration with ADHD is very, very common. It's not something that the person's trying to necessarily take out on you. It's because there is a big frustration trying to vent and express our feelings, and we feel not understood. I mean, I hope that this helps somebody out there, because I've gotten a lot of people that are like, is it common to be angry with ADHD? Yes, it is. Are you taking your meds? I mean, that's one of the first things I go to. I mean, taking your meds, having a to-do list, having a routine, they help, and they help prevent that anger and that frustration from happening. I mean, hit that like and subscribe button. I'd love to hear, your experiences when it comes to anger with ADHD, because it is common. Just like mania is common with ADHD too. And it's something that we can't discount. And it's something that we can help with by just listening, repeating back, to making sure that we both understand and are on the same page when it comes to whatever message it is we're trying to communicate, whether it's in relationship, work, friendship, whatever it might be. Down below, I even have links to all my social media, the mental health Discord. I created a nonprofit called Driven Together, bridges the gap between a crisis hotline and therapy, of just sharing tools, experiences, resources, so that nobody goes through life alone. I have links below for like fidget cubes and fidget spinners, things that I use to help me with my anxiety. I even have a link down below for BetterHelp if you want to try online therapy. It's trial and error to find out what works for you, because that's what a lot of life is trial and error. Find out what works for you, because you're the most important. And what works for you might not work for somebody else, but finding what works for you is the most important. And so don't ever forget, you're a badass. You're a badass motherfucker. You've made it through 100% of your worst days and make it through 2 today. And you know what? Together we got this.